Welcome to Digital Ship webinar on making maintenance data easier to integrate and getting rid of paper manuals with Shipdecks. Our guest speakers are already familiar to you from our webinar that we did in January, and probably most of you attended it. We are talking again with two Shipdecks Executive Committee members, Marco Vatteroni, Technical Manager of Shipdecks, and Henrik Kaspersen, Shipdecks Competence Center Leader, and also holds the position as Manager at MAN-AS. Alongside is the speaker, Giampiero Soncini, CEO of IB Marine. In the discussion, we will also have extra comments from Ioannis Kyriakides, Senior Scientist of Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, and Carrie Roberts, Engineering for Services Manager at Kongsberg Maritime. This webinar is sponsored by IB Marine that provides fleet technical management software. And now we are jumping into the most interesting part with Carl Jefferies, introducing us to the topic.
Well, thank you, Vida. So it's our second webinar on Shipdecks. That's an electronic data standard for instruction manuals, maintenance plans, and spare part catalogues for maritime. And we've planned this webinar around answering the questions which you asked in the first Shipdecks webinar on the 28th of January. So that's questions about who's currently using Shipdecks, Shipyards, suppliers, who's giving information in Shipdecks format, which software companies support it, how do we get more people to use it, how do we get better data from suppliers? How do we bring Shipdecks data into systems like condition monitoring and how it's evolving? So I'll just recap quickly what Shipdecks is and the purpose of it. So, you know, every time you buy some new equipment in your house, so a fridge or a phone or a TV, you're going to get some paper instructions with it. Now, I'm sure there's some people in the world who keep these instructions in a file somewhere, but you're probably like me, you throw them all away. So on a ship, it's the same problem, but on a much bigger scale. You've got a lot more risk, a lot more money involved, a lot more people involved. And also you've got plans for how to maintain the data and list of spare parts. And what shipping companies have been doing for years is retyping all of that into another computer system, which is a bit silly. Airlines fixed this problem a long time ago. They've been doing electronic systems for maintenance. They developed a system called S1000D. And Shipdecks is a much simplified version of S1000D for maritime. So the team behind Shipdecks first introduced it 13 years ago, but now we think it's probably a much better time. Well, it's a good time to get more interest in it because there's a lot more focus on energy efficiency in ships and keeping things in very good maintained condition. There's a lot more people out there who understand how digital technology works and have got more strategic focus on it. You've got a lot of young people coming into companies who are thinking, isn't it outrageous that we're just spending time and money retyping paper documents, and they understand the value of keeping data accurate if you move data from one place to another without retyping it. So we've also got more time for more questions at the end, so you can load questions into the Q&A box whenever you like, and hopefully we'll have time to answer them. So we've got a great team of panelists today. We're coming from the whole nicest places in Europe. I worked out. We've got speakers in Ålesund in Norway, La Spezia in Italy, London, Budapest, Larnaca, and Copenhagen to talk to you today. And the main presentation is coming from Marco Vatteroni, who's the technical manager of Shipdecks. So I'd like to introduce Marco to start his talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Can I share my screen? Yeah. Okay, good morning. Good morning, everybody. And with this webinar today, we would like to answer some topics that were unanswered the last time. These are 5 main topics. We can start from the first one. Which suppliers, shipyards, and the software companies currently support the ship? Suppliers. Today, we have some important suppliers that are already producing by themselves Shipdecks data and are providing their customers with Shipdecks data. There are all the other suppliers that, in my opinion, are just waiting for a request from their customers. And then they will have 2 different options. The first one is to produce their own Shipdecks data by themselves, or to ask third parties, like my Shipdecks consulting company, to convert some PDF manuals to Shipdex, and this conversion can be reused many times for the same equipment. But here we have a list now of some very important suppliers that are already Shipdex compliant: MAN, Kongsberg, Winterthur, and Yanmar. And we can hear now from Henrik Kaspersen, Man Energy Solution, and Mr. Kerry Roberts from Kongsberg Maritime. Please, Henrik, can you say your point of view?
Yes, thank you, Marco. Yes, as I also mentioned, on the 28th of January, MAN Energy Solution have been Shipdex compliant since 10 years. And we have delivered more than 550 datasets for 2-stroke engines, 4-stroke engines, turbocharger, and other MAN designed equipment. So it is rolling, and we are executing further orders on daily basis. Thank you.
Kerry, please. Kerry, switch your microphone, please. Kerry, your microphone is muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. A new Zoom user. Hi, this is Kerry Roberts speaking. Yes, we've been providing Shipdex compliant information for our product suites for 10 years as well. Most of our propulsion and control system products are stored in a compliant Ultra CSDB database. We provide that information typically in a PDF format, and I think we'll talk more about the opportunities for providing that information digitally based on customer needs, and for loading that into maintenance management systems in an automated method. We are currently in Kongsberg Maritime working on an integration of our technical publication information into our K-Fleet maintenance management system. So we can chat a bit about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Now, this is about suppliers. Now about shipyards. My opinion, shipyards are just waiting to receive a request from their customer to retrieve, to produce, to provide Shipdex compliant information. I have a story here that I lived a few years ago. There was a very important and huge Chinese shipyard. They received a contract to build 6 new ships for another important ship owner. And the contract required Shipdex data for all the equipment installed on board. So the shipyard received the data directly from some important suppliers like McGregor and some others, and then contracted me with my former company to convert more than 200 PDF manuals to the Shipdex format. At the end of this story, the ship owner received all the data in Shipdex format, and these data were first uploaded into their Shipdex common source database, and then they were automatically imported into their computerized maintenance management system. And this process to import the data into the CMMS took very few days instead of weeks or months to retype information and to include mistakes. Because, you know, when you retype information, it is human to include mistakes. So in my opinion, this is a story that can show what shipyards should do. Software companies. Once again, there are some software providers that are already or are becoming now Shipdex compliant. Some other companies are waiting for a request. Here we have a list of some software providers that are already supporting Shipdex. We have Logimatic and Spectec, 2 CMMS provider. We have RCM Technology, that is a US ILS company with a hot experience in S1000D. Iselnord, that is an Italian company fully owned by Fincantieri. They have a huge experience and tools for S1000D Shipdex. WebEx is a UK company with experience and tools for S1000D and also Shipdex. EQ-Centric is a Singapore company that is providing kind of API to connect software to other industrial IT system. Shipdex Consulting, that is my company, we are providing all Shipdex services and the software to manage the whole Shipdex process. And then IB Marine, last but not least, it is an Italian CMMS provider. Mr. Soncini is their CEO, and we can hear from him. Please, Giampiero.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to tell everybody, because I don't know if all the people who are now watching this seminar, if they know that Shipdex was created when Marco and myself were working together in Spectec, together with two ship owners and mastermind of Cyprus and Atlas Reederei in Germany. And essentially, we joined forces together with MAN. Varsila was there at the time, Yanmar, McGregor, and so on. And the idea was to create a protocol that would have made information standard. One of the issues that we have in shipping is that information is not standard. And by information, I mean everything, not only the protocols from the automation plants, but obviously the manuals which are provided with the equipment which is installed on board. So what we did, we went to something which was already existing. S1000D is an aeronautical standard, and Marco made a subset of it called Shipdex. But essentially, it simply means that Shipdex is a protocol that exists since more than 40 years, and it's used by every single aeronautical industry in the world. Not only that, but it has become a NATO standard called NAV 70, which means that if you're building something for NATO ships, it has to comply with S1000D, even if it's called in a different way. And therefore, it means it complies with the Shipdex, even if it has a different name. And Shipdex, of course, is part of S1000D. The scope is standardization of data. And that means, of course, that I'm shooting in my own foot if you want to really know about it. But because if I build a database and I put it in my own system and I don't allow anybody else to extract data out of my own system, basically I imprison the customer forever. But that is not the scope of technology. The scope of technology is to provide always tools and data that allow the owners, allow the users to work better. It's not to own the users of the data. So we found a very open mind in MAN, very happy to have Kongsberg on board, Logimatic for sure, and other companies which are not listed here. But of course, the main push must come from the user, the ship owner. If the ship owner or the shipping company does not push for this technology to go through, they pay twice, they pay or three times. They pay because they don't get the manuals in a format that allows them to be free to use them. They pay because they have to pay people to reinsert something which they already have. We get for all the data in paper format and have to type it again instead of getting in electronic format and just pressing a button and incorporate it into the software. And then they pay it again because if one day they decide to change software, they have to transfer the data manually or semi-manual, semi-automatic, or in a very difficult way. And that is why I'm a strong supporter of Shipdex. Mark.
Hey, thank you, Giampiero. Now, next topic, if I can move. Okay. How can we get more people to use Shipdex standard? This is a very big question. Once again, here I have my opinion. My opinion is that to get more people on board, what we need is a vision, but not a vision on the future, a vision on today, because the modernization and digitalization train has already started. Shipdex is on board this train, and more companies should get on board to avoid to lose this opportunity. To do this, to get on board, what is requested, what is needed? Oh my God. Courage. Courage, why courage? Courage to be open to approach an innovation. And the courage to be able to invest some money, not a lot of money, but it is necessary to invest some money, and this money will be paid by results in very, very short time. So we need a vision on today and the courage to be open, mostly to be open to the innovation. Now we can hear from Mr. Kyriakides, CMMI, Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, and once again from Mr. Soncini, and for the other speaker, if they wanted to add something to my opinion. Please, Ioannis.
Thank you. At the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, we are very interested in data standardization and in general, what we call fair data. That is data that are findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And this is the concept of fair data is very aligned with the Shipdex, which is very important. So I believe that together with motivating people to use the standard, we should also try to reduce the friction to switching to Shipdex. To reduce this friction, we need to develop new software that interfaces with the existing databases and converts this technical and logistic data into Shipdex format. This software solution will do most of the work and allow a human expert to provide additional recommendations to fix any missing data. Existing data processing tools can facilitate the development of such software and ensure the feasibility of this task and its success. So at the Maritime Digitalization Center of the CMMI, we are dealing with such software and data. So we'll be happy to help for anything that you need us with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ioannis. Giampiero, you have something to say?
Essentially, I've been, all my life, which is now 50 years in shipping, of which 33 have been in IT and shipping. I've always tried to modernize the industry and to make it work better. There is no doubt that shipping is very back oriented. To have shipping move, you need accidents, you need rules and regulations imposed from authorities and so on. It's very seldom proactive. Vision and courage, in my opinion, are always needed when you try to make things better. What has shocked me about Shipdex is that this is something that benefits everybody. Absolutely. Maybe the only companies who are not benefits are the IT companies who create the opportunity for a customer to jump from one software to the other in a much easier way. But the ship owner is benefiting, the ship manager is benefiting, the chief engineer is benefiting from it. And the only reason we are still talking about it rather than have it as an accepted standard is also free of charge, by the way, in the sense that the money that you have to pay is used only to keep the website open, because we have to say, Marco, that there is an entry fee of 2,500 euros and there is a fee of 500 euros on a yearly basis, which is absolutely peanuts. It doesn't go into the pockets of anybody, let's say myself or anybody else here. It simply goes to keep the website and the code and the protocol alive. So maybe it's also one of the issues that it's free for everybody to use, and the vision of something which is free of charge in shipping is probably very far away from the shipping mentality, where everything you have to pay for, and sharing information is sometimes seen as an evil thing. But there is no doubt that if we want to talk about digitalization, as Ioannis was saying, we have to standardize information. There is no digitalization without standardization. As simple as that. I'm done.
I fully agree, of course. Henrik and Kerry, would you like to add something to this point? Okay, we can go to the next topic. The next topic is, what can we do about problems with bad data from suppliers? I'm sure that suppliers are today doing their best to provide data in a good quality, because they know very well that good data means good relationship with customers. And Shipdex, it is important to understand that the Shipdex is a very clear invitation to suppliers to focus their attention not to produce a technical manual in Word, in XML, or in other way. Shipdex is a clear invitation to produce and provide technical information in a standardized electronic format. This is what I always say. forget the technical manual. Shipdex means a kind of database in XML format, and from this database, the data can be filtered, selected, and used to move the data everywhere into other databases, ERP or engineering systems, or CMMS systems. Shipdex is a good tool also, mostly I would say, for suppliers, because in this way, supplier can have a well-controlled process where they can produce their own Shipdex data. They can import data from existing data from their ERP or engineering system, and then can merge all the information to provide the information to their supplier. This is a summary of what I'm trying to say. Here we have a common source database that is a central repository that suppliers and customers can have their own CSV, of course. And here we can import XML data, that means textual data, together with any kind of multimedia contents. And this information can be exchanged in both directions with ERP, PLM, and CMMS system. Once the data are inside the common source database, they can, as I said, they can be filtered and exported to create interactive electronic technical publication, advanced way to have technical manual, or simply PDF manual based on a desired layout, and also computer-based training. I repeat that Shipdex is not an exchange protocol. Shipdex is a way to optimize the data production, management, exchange, and use. And here I would like to hear from Mr. Kaspersen and also from the other speakers their point of view about what we can do about problems with bad data from suppliers. Please, Henrik.
Yes, thank you again, Marco. Could you please stop screen sharing, then I will make a presentation.
Okay.
You are fully right. We talked about last time that digitalization and connected vessels that really call for structured technical information, not for technical manuals. And there are quite many makers who already now do adapt to this due to their existing and coming digital services. And in my opinion, bad data can often be related to this old process of sending printed manuals or PDFs from the makers to the ship owners. And then they have to do what we see here. We have a maker with a database where the content is created.
Rick, sorry, are you sharing your screen?
Yes.
We don't see it.
We don't see it. You have to share the screen.
Perfect. Okay.
I hope you see it now.
Yeah.
Okay. So my initial words were not related to the slide. So for the slide, I would then say that the old process is that the maker will produce the documentation and deliver it in a printed format or as a PDF file to the ship owner. And on ship owner side, you then have the trouble to try to understand all the details of these manuals, and in your maintenance system, create all the individual tasks according to the maintenance schedule and link the tools and spares to each individual task. That is a massive job, and there are rooms for errors, and it can be created very ununiformly, as we also talked about in the previous session. On the maker side, as I said, we are facing more and more digitalization, and that means that we have to create this structured technical information instead of the old-fashioned technical manuals. So one example from my side is that we have the maintenance schedule, and the schedule is connected to the work cards and to the spare part documentation. And the work card also knows which tools and spares are needed for each of these tasks in the maintenance schedule. So the knowledge is already at the maker side in an with increasing speed. So it is such a shame when we still have to use this old process of compiling an unstructured PDF manual, delivering, and then try to decompile it. And now I'm just waiting for the slide to change. Okay, yes. So the system that we have on our side, and which many makers are having, is that we can deliver the data in a granular way instead of a big chunk of a PDF file of 2,000 pages. The documents and resources are structured and connected, and it can be delivered to a maintenance system because we can deliver in this Shipdex format. The data is uniform, and that means that you can immediately start your long-time planning on the ship owner side. And when it is not used, yeah, then we have to follow this long-lasting process. So this should be stopped, and that is the idea of Shipdex. And instead, we should introduce the protocol to take the information from the maker side and transport it directly into the maintenance system on board the vessel. And here, Shipdex is the answer to that, because there we keep the data as in the structured format, well marked up and ready to be imported, as long as the system here can understand the format that comes. And that has been the task for the software suppliers so far. And as we learned just before, more and more software suppliers are coming into this game as well. And when we have this established, then it does not matter if you have system number 1, 2, 3, or 4. If they have this common interface, then the data can be accepted. And on the maker side, it doesn't matter which system you have, backend system, as long as you deliver in the same unified format. So in this way, we can change the way of working into this more structured way and prevent these error-prone old processes. And I would also say, if you do not yet have a Shipdex compliant system, then you can still benefit from Shipdex. And now I would like to shift to the Shipdex viewer. And when you can see the viewer, then here is an example of a data set from an 80-bore two-stroke engine. And the good thing here is that this is static data. You can browse through it, but you can convert it to the dynamic data very easily, because you get the information of which tasks are to be done every 12,000 hours, every 8,000 hours. So it is easy to create the structure which I showed before. You don't have to read and understand the manual. You can simply go in here and select the planning function. Then you get all the tasks sorted into periodicity. And there are also some unscheduled tasks which can be triggered when a certain condition has been reached in the operation of the engine or the product. So you can easily create all the tasks with very little room for errors. And with this task in the Shipdex data, you will see the periodicity, of course, the tools, the spares needed. You will get all the safety information, what to consider, and all the PPE, personal protective equipment, any other kind of safety messages, and then the steps of how to do this job with a link to the corresponding page in the instruction manual, or it could be written out so you have everything in the browser itself, not like the linked PDF. And that means that you can create very easily the task, the structure in the maintenance system. So you can have this Gantt diagram, and you can start the planning over time according to the running hours or the time of the vessel's operation. And when this job then is triggered, then you can simply print this out. There is a print function, so you can get a PDF file, which I have here, which you can bring down into the engine room. And along the way, the engine room staff can add some check marks, and this can then be an enclosure or addendum to the engine logbook, so that you have something to present during surveys or audits. And the good thing is that it's a very short printout, but it still gives you all the critical information, and also the weights and torques which are needed along the way, which you cannot easily remember by heart. So very simple information in the structure. And of course you can add more if you wish, but when you do the printout, because the task has been triggered, then you have everything available. So that could be a shortcut to utilize the Shipdex data until maybe in time that your maintenance system becomes Shipdex compliant, or that you, for some segments or the whole fleet, introduce a system which is then Shipdex compliant. So an idea on how to get started without big efforts and with a quick win, low-hanging fruits. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Explain the presentation. So I think you can confirm that Shipdex, but like an IN, not is.
Sorry, Marco, I'm losing you. I don't hear your question or comment.
It says you've got low internet bandwidth.
Don't me.
Okay, well, Marco is trying to sort out his issues. Marco, your bandwidth has gone down, etc. I want to say something. I would like to everybody who is attending to concentrate on the fact that we are in 2021 and we still get manuals for every equipment that we get on board of a ship. There are normally on a cargo vessel there are between 170 and 220 equipment on board, and we get the equivalent amount of manuals multiplied by 5. They all have to have the class approval. You know, normally every single manufacturer has to deliver 5 of them. For a very large cruise vessels, we calculated, or we didn't calculate, we got them. So we know that this can reach 3 tons of manuals that have to be reinserted manually on a computerized CMMS system. On a maintenance management system. I've done plant maintenance all my life. I started in 1980. I'm now against it, to be sure. You know, I'm totally in favor of condition-based maintenance, which I started to do in the 90s, but which have never really taken place. But with the performance solutions which are available today, condition-based maintenance has become extremely easy and extremely possible. But we still need information. We still need the information to be right, because even if I get a signal from the condition-based maintenance that I have to do a certain activity because the vibration level is increased, because the temperature is increased, or because whatever it has happened, I still have to refer to a manual for the instruction. I still have to refer to the manual for the spare parts. And I need the right information. And I need it available on the same tool that I'm using to verify everything else. Not to go into a library and open a book, which maybe was updated by a service bulletin which arrived 3 years ago, but the previous chief engineer didn't store the information properly, is floating somewhere in an office or in a drawer, and I don't know anything about this. And this is what Shipdex is capable to sort out. So we still need the information to be standard electronic format. Marco, are you back online?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I will come back. Okay, you have, Henrik, you have to leave your sharing. Because, okay. Oh my God. I have the problem to screens. It doesn't help. The screen don't help. Okay, we are here. Okay, so we heard the point of view of Mr. Kaspersen and also Mr. Soncini. Next topic is how can we better incorporate Shipdex data into condition monitoring system? I think that Mr. Soncini has already answered this issue. I repeat, oh no, I had to ask a confirmation to Henrik, sorry. What I tried to say is that Shipdex is a good, perfect tool for users, of course, but is also very, very important for suppliers because it is not an additional work for you, for suppliers. It's a way to simplify and to optimize the production of technical data, and most to save time, to save money, to produce the data, and mostly to update the data. Can you confirm in your experience and also in Kerry experience, this, I'm right?
Yes, you are right. It has been a good opportunity to look into the data and how it is structured and how it can be reused. and that has been a big gain.
Yes, some of the most important principles behind the Shipdex is not to duplicate the information, having the possibility to reuse the same information for different purposes. So here, if Mr. Soncini has something else to say, I would like to hear from him.
So, well, of course, I've already said what I needed to say on this. Condition-based maintenance is the future, because now with performance monitoring systems, you can bring the ship into the office. You can analyze every single parameter, connected very easily. It takes one day with our system but with any system to connect with the automation plant, with the navigation plant, and extract data, analyze, run KPIs, and so on. But we still need the information at the bottom of it. Once I found out that I have an alert condition for low pressure in some areas of a pump, etc., I still need to be able to connect with the right information and the right manual. And I would love to do it electronically, not that I have to say, oh, stop 1 minute, I have to go into the archive and check the manual for that ship, hoping that it is in its place and not somewhere else. This means information at your fingertips. This means that data becomes information, because data by itself, well, we have seen that we've spoken a lot about big data, you know, all that blah, blah for many, many years. But essentially, we're still back to the way we were in 1980. We still think that data is the right things to do, and not at all. It is the analysis of data which is the right things to do, the thing to do. And it is the information that we can extract from data, which is important. Finished.
Okay, last topic. Will Shipdex be evolving, such as to do standard API integrations or JSON integration? Okay, I would like to say here that Shipdex scope is not to develop software applications. We have developed the Shipdex viewer that is a very, very powerful tool to navigate through Shipdex data, to convert the data in HTML, or to create well-organized PDF format, PDF manuals. What Henrik showed before is a clear example how you can take advantage from using the Shipdex viewer. Shipdex viewer, you should know, is free of charge, fully free of charge, can be downloaded from our website homepage, but can also be provided by any manufacturers together with their Shipdex data. So it's the best way to navigate through the data and to convert the data into a well-organized technical manual in PDF. API integration. Shipdex data are created on the basis of open XML schemas. These schemas can be understood by everybody, and every IT company can develop their own API or Shipdex interfaces to import selected information into different ERP, CMMS, PLM databases. About JSON integration. JSON is a JavaScript object notation, is a subset of Java language, and it is used to simply exchange data. I don't think we need to integrate with JSON, because Shipdex is also an exchange protocol. So Shipdex, as I said before, is to produce, manage, exchange, and use technical information. So I think we don't need to integrate Shipdex with JSON language or other exchange languages. So I hope there are some other questions coming from the audience, and we are here to answer them. In any case, you can contact me and I will be very happy to answer. This is my technical manager email address.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Marco. So I'd like to invite the audience to put questions up in the Q&A box. You can see there's a couple there already. I've got a warm-up question for John Piero about decarbonisation. I was on a DNV press conference a month ago where they said they're very concerned about they call it looming safety gap with new technologies. So everyone's looking at new engine technology. So the complexity of systems on board ships is going to get much more complicated with all this decarbonisation. So it seems to me that the importance of things like this is going to get far higher, because it's not just about reducing administration cost, which is kind of how it was perhaps 13 years ago. Now it's about making this decarbonisation stuff work, and also without having more risks. I don't know if that's something you've been thinking about as well, is it, do you think?
Listen, I've been a seafarer, and I pity my colleagues today who are on ships. It's the number of things that they have to do, the number of rules and regulations that they have to follow, and the penalties if it doesn't happen, if they don't follow them properly, is horrendous. The digitalization process is basically entirely dedicated to the idea of helping the crew sorting out their problems in the most automatic way possible. You can have today on a typical performance solution, and you know, IB is one of them. When we started, we were the only ones 4 years ago now, and today there are probably 30 companies providing performance monitoring systems. Okay, well, you can fill up the EEDI, the AMP, you can do the SAMP, everything that you want. You can do it entirely automatically, collecting data automatically from every sensor. And then you can verify whether the sensors are providing good data or not directly from the office, or of course, directly from the ship. So it is obvious that there is an enormous facilitation process, because it has become almost impossible to deal with everything that you have on board, to follow the ISM code, to follow the ISPS code, and to follow any bloody other code which has been, you know, injected under our skin, not to say something worse. So definitely, this is Shipdex is one aspect, but it's part of the process of making things easier for everybody and more compliant to everybody. Today, we can literally see in the software if the scrubber is performing correctly. We can see with a sensor directly from the office if we are complying with NOx and SOx. Remember, today they can send a drone on top of your funnel and verify if you're basically emitting too much SOx or NOx. And if they can do that with the electronic, you can verify it yourself with the electronic. Without a drone, you can put a sensor and basically you have a solution. And this is where we have to go. Shipdex is a tool that will allow this to happen in a better way, in an easier way. Of course, we can still do it manually, but anybody who does things manually today is crazy. We are not on the phone like this. We are Zoom. I hate COVID because it has stopped me from flying and traveling and seeing people. And believe me, I can see that we have 71 participants here. I'd love to be in a conference room and look at every single one of them and then interact on a coffee. But as we can't, we're making use of technology to make it possible anyway. And this is what Shipdex does. Mm-hmm. Then if you want an answer to the two questions which you have here, because they're both interesting. I'll start with the second one first. A very useful tool are the weak points in the Shipdex process where particular attention must be paid. One of the problems of Shipdex is that if you have only MAN doing it or only Kongsberg doing it, it's very good if you have Kongsberg and MAN on the vessel because it takes away 60% of the problems that you have. But unfortunately, you still remain with the 40% that you have to do it manually. The weakness of Shipdex is that until it is adopted by everybody, it still has the weak point that you have to run a manual system and the Shipdex system at the same time. And creating this, I can leave it to you, Marco. Enrico is asking to create what are the pros and cons of a common source database infrastructure.
I see. What are pros and cons to create a CSV infrastructure on his own premises or to buy it as a service? Both solutions, in my opinion, are good.
What's CSDB? Is that common source database, is it?
Common source database is the technical repository where all the Shipdex information, including multimedia contents, can be stored to have just one, as I said, common repository that can be used to export data to customers, to export data to create manual, to export data to SCMMS. Is a database. And where all the information in Shipdex format can be managed, retrieved, updated, keeping the history of all the changes that have been applied. Answering the question, Enrico, my point of view is I would prefer to have in my house to have SCSDB because I wanted to have if I'm a ship owner, if I want to have my data at the fingertips and I don't want any other people could access my data, and I want to be completely free. Of course, I can also ask some service companies to manage my own common source database. But if I am a maker, I will never allow a third company to manage my data or to host my data. So it depends on which result you want to receive, which is your point of view. My personal preference is to have everything in my house. I hope I have answered.
I could add to that. From an original equipment manufacturing's perspective, I think there is an opportunity for a ship owner to subscribe to the OE's data. As the original equipment manufacturer, we're the technical authority on the data. And I think it's safer for a ship owner to have a subscription to that information. For example, as we change torque values, periodicities, various other things for our products based on our reliability, availability, maintainability analysis, we publish those into our system. And those, and through the electronic exchange that we're talking about, that hasn't really come about all that much, but we're here now. There's opportunities for us to publish that data into the ship owner's common source database or repository. So I think it needs to be a combination of both. It's, as I said, from an OE perspective, being the technical authority on this content, we think it's very important to subscribe to the content for our products. And as well, we talked about problems with data quality and various things like that from recreating data in common source databases from PDF files and that, using our current common source database with XML structure, we should be able to automate all of this information so we can eliminate those issues as well. Thanks.
I agree with you, Kerry. I agree with you.
And I want to add this. It's going to be fantastic the day that every single manufacturer will have their own data that I can access, maybe by paying a yearly fee, where I know that I can find not only all the updated information, but maybe I can find even some statistics, or even they can change the maintenance instructions and say, well, on average, we were suggesting to do this instruction every 80,000 hours, but having seen the reality on the field, we can now guarantee every 85,000 hours, every 90,000 hours, or even every 50, can be even down. But you understand that a side effect, because I've always hated the idea that companies could sell the access to the PDF manual by selling the PDF manual or by selling even the Shipdex manual. But I love the idea that I'm asked to pay a fee, because at that moment that I pay a fee, I get a service, which means that I get MAN, Kongsberg, Wärtsilä to basically do the work of updating the information. And I know that every time I access my information is updated to the very last one, which means that the service bulletins become a thing of the past, as they should be.
Oh, should we go to Lionel John's question with 5 up votes? I think we covered why other companies haven't got involved and how much we should push them. I mean, my idea was we get classification societies to push it as a safety issue. Why don't we get more major makers signing up to Shipdex? Anybody got anything more to add? Henrik would like to answer this question. Says.
Yes, I think it is fair to say that Shipdex was introduced quite early together with the first ideas of digitalization, but there are many companies which only now are ready for this digitalization, and the internet connectivity is also now growing and is something that you can take for granted. So the time has matured, and we can see a lot of increased awareness because the digital solutions are there. And now the whole community recognizes that to drive these digitalization services, you need this structured technical information. So we see the ball is rolling, and we are just happy to have been among the front runners. Thank you.
And my always opinion is that customers, ship owners, must push their suppliers to provide them with Shipdex data, because I talked with many suppliers and they told me, my customers are not asking me Shipdex data. So please ask Shipdex data to all of your suppliers. And your suppliers, as I said before, will have two choices. One is to produce their own Shipdex data by themselves. Second is to ask a third party to convert 1, 2, 3 PDF manuals to Shipdex format, and this Shipdex manuals, Shipdex dataset better, can be reused every time for the same equipment. So it is not a cost. It is a big advantage for suppliers and for customers.
Oh, go to John Piero. You said you'd like to answer the next two questions. So can we do digital transformation without digitizing the maritime equipment first? Or I think he's saying, surely we have to do this first. And Ricardo is saying, do you see if class can do this, impose this as a standard?
So, of course, to reply to Captain Adami's question, it's easy. Can we do a digital transformation without digitizing maritime equipment first? It's difficult, because digital means that we have to stop doing anything manually. And if I want to install a fuel performance monitoring system and I have to collect data by hand, well, I'm not digitizing it. The fastest way today for digitalization are definitely the performance monitoring systems, the fleet control system, and so on. It still requires, though, to connect something to the vessel. Now, if the vessel is 20 years old, of course, you have to wonder whether the cost is worth the benefits. Depends. If it is a cruise vessel, even if I still have 8 ships in front of me sitting idle for 1 year, but assuming that they restart, yes, definitely, if they have another 20 years to live, it is still worth it. On a cargo vessel, it's not. But if you have a cargo vessel which is 10 years old, applying the changes which for digitizing or digitalizing the outputs from a flow meter or from a torque meter is worth the savings that you can make. So my answer is a hybrid. Yes, you could do it, but the two problems are interconnected. We need digital output from the equipment in order to get the information in a digital way. When it comes to Ricardo instead, so I could be malignant and say that classification societies are making money by approving handbooks, and in my opinion, this is something so awkward and obsolete that should be totally abandoned. Classification societies, they've not taken the lead on this. They've tried to make money out of IT, which is equivalent from me trying to become a classification society myself. It doesn't make any sense. They should be instead more proactive, like companies like BIMCO should be more proactive. They should give the push to the ship owners, because the push is the ship owners. And I'm done, because otherwise I talk too much.
Always, because they are the customers.
Oh, there we go. So we've got two similar questions from Mats and Katerina. Mats is saying, yes, ship owners and class should take the lead and set this as a requirement. Katerina is saying, what are the blocks in implementing such a well-structured standard? I suppose there's still similar questions, the one we're coming back to that well, I guess there are people in the maritime, like there are leaders like International Chamber of Shipping and stuff could get behind this, I suppose, if they wanted to, or European Union even. But is anything more to say on these questions, you think?
It's regarding what Mats is saying. Yes, well, it is the fact, yeah, because I have to admit that the Shipdex has now been ready 10 years. We started 15 years ago. And in 10 years, we did have some big successes, but a very small number of them. And it has not been adopted widely. A lot is because ship owners don't care. Ship owners they see everything as a cost if it's not something that increases their revenues. And therefore, it has to come from the fleet managers, the fleet operations, who normally don't give a damn about receiving manuals. They're still used to receiving everything on a manual format, on a paper format. So the push has to come from the industry itself. I think it's coming now. I see that, you know, with the difficulties of traveling, with the difficulties of connecting, I mean, in no time we have gone from to have webinars and to have meetings and on a computer. And I think it will happen the same with the information. But there must be a push also from classification societies. And the fact that they have not adopted it, I mean, for a short period of time, I worked in one classification society and I told them to adopt Shipdex, but they were looking at me with blank eyes. And I don't know, maybe, you know, classification societies suffer of the same disease of the whole shipping companies. They're used to work in a given way and they never want to change.
Well, I was on the press conference at DNV. They do one press conference a year for journalists in London, and the topic they chose this time was called Closing the Safety Gap in an Era of Transformation. And it's about a white paper they've made, and it's all about new safety gaps which evolve with these new digital technology and decarbonization technologies. So I don't know if anybody from DNV is watching, but this seems completely aligned, and maybe I'll tell the DNV people I spoke to about this afterwards, I think. But we're coming up to the last 4 minutes and we don't have any open questions. So maybe if we give a...
I would like to answer a question about S1000D complexity. Yes, S1000D is a very huge specification, giving a lot of possibilities. It is 3,000 pages. What we did in Shipdex was to select a subset of rules from the S1000D specification, and we have created just one business rules for the whole maritime community. So Shipdex is fully S1000D compliant, but it is very, very simplified and doesn't give all the opportunities, changes that are allowed by the S1000D.
Wow, that's great. Would any speakers like to take 30 seconds, a minute for a final word before we finish?
I'd say, as we have 63 participants now, we had 78. If each one of us convince 10 people to move to Shipdex, is going to be very good for the industry. That's the only thing I need to say.
The last message is that Shipdex is, in my opinion, a perfect tool for all the shipping actors, suppliers, shipyards, ship owners, ship manager, and also classification and IT engineering companies. This is my final message.
Oh, that's great. Well, I shall pass back to Vida for the closing words, but thanks everybody, and hopefully we've done well and get more momentum behind this thing, and we'll do this again in a year and there'll be a lot more interest moving forward, but I'll pass to Vida now. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have learned about one real way to get rid of paper manuals in maritime and in-depth insight into how Shipdex works. Next week, Carl and I will be hosting a webinar on Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll get into vessel performance, more specifically analytics, advice, and some exciting case studies. Sign up if you haven't already. Digital Ship is signing off. See you next Tuesday.
Oh, bye-bye.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.